This is my death letter, and I want to talk to you about what it is, what it contains, and invite you to consider doing the same for your loved ones should you die unexpectedly and don't have time to plan your own funeral. So in graduate school, I studied death, grief, and bereavement, and one of my capstone projects was to write not only my own obituary, but also to plan my funeral. Well, after the fact, I thought, how useful would this be for my sister to have this should I suddenly die and now she needs to plan my funeral? How useful would it be for her to have an understanding of what my wishes are to happen afterwards? And so I folded it up, I put it in an envelope, and I handed it to her with those instructions that should I die, this is what you're going to open for some guidance. Well, over the years, my preferences changed, so I updated it, and I added a second copy when my fiance and I got engaged so that we would keep one in our safe so that he has access to the same copy that my sister does. And I had a friend reach out to me a few months ago who's in a high-risk position. He's a first responder, and he asked me, would it be weird of me to have like a video or a letter or a voice memo for my wife and kids to listen to should I not come home one day? And I was obviously highly encouraging of this. He didn't know at the time that I had something like this already in place, and I don't work in a high risk environment. So I figured maybe I would open up the discussion around it, share some of the things that I put in mine so that it could give you an idea to do the same for your family, should that be a fit in your case. So first and foremost, one of the things that I put in here is I ask my sister and I invite my family to wait to have the funeral. I think one of the things that becomes really challenging, especially when it comes to grieving, is there's this operational demand to literally plan a wedding type event in a 1 week span. I mean, a lot of the same things that go into the wedding go into a funeral, and it's exhausting, and it becomes this almost coping mechanism and this ability to check out and be distracted. But I don't want people to stress about those things in those first few weeks. I want them to really just be in their grief, be together, be a part of the community, and let the funeral happen like 5 or 6 weeks later. It doesn't have to happen immediately. Another thing that you can put in this death letter that I've put in is, what do you want with your remains? Do you want to be cremated? Do you want your ashes spread a certain place? Do you want to be buried? Where do you want to be buried? Who do you want to be buried next to? All these little things can be considered. Another thing I include is how I perceive death. I realize that a lot of my family and even closest friends might not have an understanding of where my mindset and mentality are in my relationship to death and what my beliefs are following what happens when we die. And I want that shared at my funeral. So I include that in here. I talk about the music I want played at my funeral. I talk about the people to invite. I talk about some things that I want my guests to do to support my family. I tell her which friends to turn to for which tasks. And the one thing, there's a couple things I haven't put in here that I'm pulling out to add in. One of them is I want my pets to see me dead. And so I've since learned this, and this is something I talk about. I want my pets to know that I'm dead. I don't want them to think that I just didn't come home one day. So if there's an ability that whether I die at home or I die in the hospital to, maybe even happen at the funeral home, that my pets get to see my dead body and get to process that grief along with everybody else. I also want to include my pallbearers. Something I didn't think about until recently. I learned that Alva Vanderbilt was a big feminist back in the early 1900s, and she tried to have a woman lead her service in a church, but the church wouldn't allow it because this was back when women weren't allowed to do a bunch of stuff. But what she did have was she picked all 6 of her pallbearers to carry her casket, which I thought was really cool. So something I didn't think about. Who do I want to carry me? Who do I want speaking? Okay, who would I want being the liaison if I worked for a department or organization? Who would I want taking care of my family? Who would I not want taking care of my family? Those are the kind of things that you can put into this death letter that give your family some guidance from beyond the grave should something happen unexpectedly, or even if it's expected. You wouldn't believe how many conversations get evaded until afterwards, and people wonder, man, I wish I would have asked that question at the time. This allows you a chance to do just that. Additionally, I have passwords in here because I want them having access to my computer. If you don't want someone having access to certain things, make sure you tell that friend. They have instructions to do that. Because my expertise is in death notifications, I have very clear instructions for people not to beat themselves up over how they notify others about my death. You're grieving too. And even though this is something that has become a big part of my life's work, one thing I know by now about death notifications is that they're never easy. We're gonna mess up. and there's always something to learn about how to do it better the next time, but that doesn't mean it was a complete failure for this one. So give yourself some grace. And lastly, I tell them to enjoy the party. This was another thing that I'm going to be adding into this document that I didn't think of previously, is to take pictures. The 2 times that we are together in groups in the masses that we are weddings and funerals, and yet we only take pictures at the weddings. So I'm going to ask my family and friends to enjoy their time together, take lots of pictures, and to enjoy the party that is celebrating my life. This is